100. Australia's political leaders have accepted close to $6 million from a lobby group critics say is a shadowy front for the communist government and a mysterious Chinese billionaire. The revelations have bolstered a push to ban foreign donations to political parties in Australia after parliamentary researchers calculated that the Liberal and Labor parties have accepted millions from the Australian Council for the promotion of peaceful reunification of China. A confidential report obtained by the Herald Sun newspaper in Melbourne found the council was classed as an agent of the Chinese state. The Turnbull government will introduce legislation to ban foreign donations to political parties and associated entities from foreign donors next month. The New South Wales Labor received the bulk of these donations that were written up, but the Liberals in the Victorian seat of Goldstein, when Andrew Robb was negotiating a free trade agreement with China, were pretty fond of accepting these donations as well. Now, joining us live now is the Labor Party, Michael Danby, who's been a long-term critic of the influence of China and these foreign donors in Australia. Michael, what needs to happen and why is this a problem?
It's a problem because here we have a large amount of money going to both political parties seeking to influence foreign policy, and it's directed through an organisation where people belong to it on the basis of agreeing with an authoritarian foreign power's foreign policy. That's different from individuals. I really want to make it clear to you, Sam, and to people who are watching this that any reasonable Australian should be colourblind. Chinese investment by individuals or entities from the mainland in Australia, we're a capital poor country, is a very good idea. We should do it on the basis of commercial necessity. But this directed donations to political parties to achieve a political outcome to shift our foreign policy, together with the buy-up of the Chinese press and the funding of various faux think tanks, all presents you with a sort of picture of China trying to influence Australia in a direction that it would like to push us.
So what is your concerns in relation to your own party first? We've had this controversy in relation to Sam Dastyari and other leading figures in the Labor Party as well. I mean, do you think that they're being used by China?
I think Sam certainly learned his lesson. He paid a very high price for it. I think he'll be very cautious about saying anything to do with international relations and China in the future, and be very close to what the Labor Party decides. But, you know, we've made a mistake in the past. I think Bill Shorten and our Deputy Chair of the Electoral Matters Committee have agreed on that, and that we'll be supporting a ban on foreign donations. The problem is, Sam, is what do you do with people who are members of an organisation like this, but who are Australian citizens? It's very interesting that one of the, in fact, the largest donor to this organisation that's been giving to political parties has had his citizenship blocked, according to newspaper reports, on the recommendation of ASIO. So he'd be covered by foreign donors, but what do you do with dual nationals? It's not only senators and deputy prime ministers that are affected by this. It's donors and seeking to influence the Australian political process via this method.
So do you think that you actually need to extend those laws, or the government needs to look before it announces these changes next month to actually ban dual citizens as well?
No, what I'm saying is first of all, it's very important that it do extend the laws as are proposed, and I think proposed in a non-partisan way to do what all other countries do. It's not exceptional, by the way, to ban foreign donations. But what I'm signalling to you, and it's clear from the research, is that this is a problem for people who are part of this model that's set up in Australia and other countries of a business organisation that gives money at the suggestion of a country that has differences in policy with Australia over the South China Sea, in a number of areas all around the world that we don't support. What do we do with people who are giving money through this to establish think tanks, to finance protests against Tibetans, etc., etc.? It's a dilemma, and I think partially the fact that people know about it via the Herald Sun and know about it via Sky is they can make their own judgments after that.
And just finally, there's been a lot of very leading Labor figures that have very close relationships with China and argue that it's very important and what they're doing is completely legitimate, including Bob Carr. What is your view of how history will judge, Bob Carr's involvement with these groups to try and build relationships between China and Australia?
Well, first of all, let me distinguish between academics like Peter Drysdale, Hugh White and, say, Paul Keating, who have a view that we should accept the rise of China more even-handedly in this part of the world. It's a perfectly respectable argument. I think they bend over backwards too much. But I think Bob Carr and his ACRI institution, which are backed by this ACP-PRC outfit, is a different case. I knew Bob Carr since I was a teenager. Bob used to make jokes about Russian front organisations, Soviet front organisations, and I think, frankly, he's doing the same for the Beijing state. Now, there's no getting around it. China is an authoritarian state. It executes 3,000 people a year. It brutally suppresses its minorities in Tibet and Xinjiang, and I know Bob Carr knows what a joke all of these Russian front organisations were in the past, and I think his ACRI outfit is very much like it. And simply the fact that I'm able to put this point of view shows we're a democratic society and people can take his views with a grain of salt in the future.
All right then, thank you very much for your time today there in Melbourne, Michael Danby.
Thanks, Sam.